Hey, good morning. Today I'm glad you're watching this video because it's going to be a critical lesson for us for the next 5 weeks. Because this is going to be how we're going to start finding our zeros on quadratics, which right now doesn't make any sense to you, but just trust me, today's a very important day. So was Monday and Tuesday of being able to find the greatest common factors. So today we're going to do a whole lot of FOIL. We should be pretty good at this by now. So please do these warm-ups, and we're going to be doing a lot of it today to check our answers to make sure we got the right numbers. All right. Pause the video, do these warm-ups, and then we'll see how you did. All right, welcome back. So here's what I got for my warm-ups. I got binomial is number 1. 10x squared minus 14x minus 12 for number 2. 25x squared minus 60x plus 36, because at 5x minus 6, I could have done the shortcut and just squared the first, squared the second. Like we learned shortcuts, 5 times negative 6 would be a minus 30, and double it, 30x's. That would have worked. On number 4, when you did it, notice that it's not in standard form, and I'm done doing my FOIL. So when I went to write my final answer, I put the degree of 3 first, degree of 2 next, degree of 1, and then a 3 with the degree of 0. So always make sure your answers are in standard form, okay? All right, so today, like I was telling you, we're going to do a whole lot of this stuff called FOIL. We're going to multiply 2 binomials, first, outer, inner, and last. And as we were doing these, you should have noticed some things. Something that you should have noticed is that when I take this last number and multiply them together, I always get the third term in my answer. 2 times 5 is 10, and I didn't have to do any combining. You should have also kind of noticed that when I do my x's times my x's, I get an x squared, and nothing changes on that one. So half of our factoring is kind of pretty easy. It's just that stinking middle term there that's going to give us a little bit of a trouble. So most teachers teach it this way. And then somebody in college taught me a little bit of a trick. So we'll hold off on the trick for a little bit because you should be able to do some mental math here. And so when they said, okay, we're going to do FOIL here, and the guess and check method is the method that most teachers use. It says the easy part is I'm going to do x times x. I know that's a given because x times x is going to be x squared. Now, I'm really going to focus on this last term, plus 60, and I want to think about the ways I can get 60. I can get 60 by taking 1 times 60. So if I put a 1 in there and a 60 here, I know my third term is going to be a 60 because that would be in FOIL, my last term. So I want to focus on my x's, my middle term here. And the way I got my x's was when we did this one times this one, which was 60 x's. I'm going to put it over here. And then when I did my inners, I got plus 1 more x. So that would be a 61 x's. Well, that's not what I want. I want 19 x's. Okay. So then we said, okay, well, I know 2 goes into 60, 2 times 30. So if I put a 2 here and a 30 there, again, I want to focus on my x's because I know 2 times 30 is 60. So I got that part taken care of. So now I have 30 x's plus 2 more x's. That's 32 x's. Well, that's not what I want. So then sometimes I'll ask kids, well, do you think you know what the combination is? And somebody says, well, I know 3 times 10 will go in there. So let's try 3 and 10. Because, oh no, 3 times 20. Let's try 3 and 20 because that equals 60. Again, my x's would be these two. I got 20 x's. And I got 3 more x's. That's 23 x's. Still not what I needed. Does 4 go into 60? Yeah, 4 times 15. So let's try 4 and 15. Again, my x squareds, I know for x times x is going to be x squared. I know that's going to be 60, so I want to focus on my x's. 15 x's and 4 x's. 19 x's. And that's what I needed. So this is now truly factored. X plus 4 and x plus 15. That is my final answer. The other three didn't work. I didn't get my middle term. Okay. So give these guys a shot. We know, again, when you start out that it's going to be an x times an x. Okay. So think of ways that we can get 24. Now, sometimes if you just kind of stop for a minute and kind of think about it, some kids would jump right to 12 times 2. So if I put a plus 2 here and a plus 12 there, now again, you're going to have to do FOIL, so x squared plus 2x, what did I say, 12 here, didn't I? That's going to be a 12x's plus 2x's plus 24. Well, I get my middle x's here add up to 14x's, so that's not the answer. So another way that I can get 24 would be maybe, what are you thinking, 4 times 6? Because 4 times 6 is that, so let's try 4 and 6. So I still got my x squared. Now I got plus 6x's plus 4x's plus 24, and now I get my 10x's in the middle. So my final answer is x plus 4, x plus 6. All right. See if you can get this one. It's going to be an x and an x. Well, think of numbers that would multiply to 12 and try them and then do FOIL to check your work. Okay. Pause your video because it might take you a little while to do the FOIL. I got the answers on the next page. Sorry. All right. So I got it kind of on the first try here. I said 3 and 4. I'm doing a little bit of thinking here that I said, one of them is going to be a 1x and a 12x in the middle. So I'm now starting to think and plan ahead. Well, how can I get 7? And I said, well, 3 and 4 adds up to 7. And so I tried those numbers right off the bat, 3 and 4, and it worked out. Okay? Guessing and checking is a lot of work, especially when you have to check with your FOIL ones. And today I want you to check on all the odd ones on the paper, okay? If you want to check the evens, that's fine, but I for sure want you to check all the odds, okay? All right, so the guess and check method isn't very efficient. And so they talk about thinking about the coefficient just like I was doing on this last one here and thinking about what two numbers would give me my middle one. So some kids kind of pick up on that. That still wasn't working very well for me. And so what some kid told me in college when we took algebra again, we had to do a lot of factoring there. He showed me this little trick, and now it's coming something that I kind of teach. He says, here's what you need to do, is you need to make a big X right next door. You automatically put a times sign in the top and a plus sign on the bottom. Okay? And he says, all the time on trinomials, the top number, or the third number, this 8 goes on the top. I need two numbers that multiply to 8, but they need to add up to our middle term, 6. And so now, just like I was kind of doing there, I think about the numbers of multiplying to 8. 1 times 8 is 8. So if I put a 1 and an 8 in here, I can't get a 6 from a 1 and an 8. So I know that's not the combination. So then I think of other ways. Well, 2 and 4 would give me an 8. 2 times 4 is 8. And look, 2 plus 4 equals 6. So my first guess is going to be this. And almost all the time, my first guess is always right. That's going to be one of my factors is a 2. And my second one is going to be a 4. Now, let's practice FOIL. X squared plus 4x plus 2x plus 8. And look, my middle term becomes a 6x. And that's what I needed. So my answer is right here. Now it takes a couple times to practice. Somewhere nearby, automatically when they tell me to factor a trinomial, I put an x, I put a times sign, I put a plus sign. Automatically, I put this 6, the third term on the top, my middle term on the bottom. And now I start thinking about a combination of two numbers that will multiply to 6. 6 times 1 is 6. But I can't get a 5 unless I put this as a -1. But then I'm back here and say 6 times a -1 is a -6. So it's not 6 and 1. Okay. Another way I can get 6 is 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6, but 2 plus 3 is also 5. So I'm thinking my first guess is going to be this. X, I know that's a given, x squared. I'm going to put a +2 and then a +3. Now, do FOIL again. We got to get good at this. X squared plus 3x plus 2 more x's plus 6. I get 5 x's in the middle. And I got an x squared like I needed. That's what I needed. So again, this is my final answer. So the X method, I was so happy when this kid showed it to me. It's like, oh my gosh, it really, really works well. Automatic time sign, plus sign, dash, dash. 16 goes up here and a -10. Now this is the thinking part, but it sure saves a lot of FOIL and guessing, saying, dang, that didn't work, dang, that didn't work, dang, that didn't work. So two numbers that multiply to 16, but add up to a -10. So now this is kind of where it gets a little crazy. 1 times 16 is 16, but there's no way I can get a 10 out of 1 and 16. So that's not the combination. I can say 2 and 8 gives me 16. And look, I can get a 10 out of that, can't I? Now, we got to have a positive 16 up here and a -10. So how can I get that? What if I made both of these negatives? Isn't a negative times a negative a positive? Isn't a -2 plus a -8 -10? So it kind of works there as well, which I was extremely happy because I kept saying, well, what happens when my signs in the middle are a little bit different? They're not all pluses. He says, no problem. It works. Try it. So it's like, oh my gosh, look at this. X squared minus 8x minus 2 more x's plus 16. X squared minus 10x plus 16. Bam, it worked. So at this point, because many times I kind of got frustrated with my math homework in high school on this whole factoring and quadratics because I didn't see a purpose for it. And I was just like a lot of you. Why do I have to learn this? And so I was very happy when he showed me this because college we do a lot of factoring too. All right, so we're going to do a lot of these in class. Kids are going to go up to the board and they're going to practice it and we're going to coach them through it. Pause your video and try these 4. And let's see how you do. You can do the checking method or guess and check method, but on all these, I want you to check your answers to make sure you get back to this. So I should see FOIL on all of them. Okay, just don't get what you think it is and move on to the next one. Check your work. All right. So I did use the check or the X method, I guess was what I call it. And I got x plus 6 and x plus 2. Now, some kids have this little struggle here when they compare their answer. They might say, well, I had x plus 2 times x plus 6. Is that the same thing? Yeah. 3 times 2 is 6, but it's also 2 times 3. So if I just reverse my two binomials, that's okay. All right, so those are the same answers. But the signs inside are very important. It has to be a plus 6 and a plus 2. Over there on 2B, I got a -3 and a -2. Very important that you have that. And you'll notice on all of them, I did my FOIL and check. So, want to improve your grade? This is a good way to improve your grade. Even though I said just check the odd ones, I would check all of them, okay? Now, we have a little bit of a problem here because now we got a negative out here on the end here. I know it's going to be an x times an x, but I asked the guy that was showing me this. I says, okay, that's all great, but what happens when it's a negative out there? He says it still works. You just put a -18 up here, and down here you're going to put a +7 because that's my middle term. So now, again, I'm thinking in my head, what two numbers are going to give me -18? Well, I don't worry about the negative part. I just think about 18. And I say, well, 9 and 2 gives me 18. And somehow I can get a 7 out of 92. Like if I subtracted these two, I get a 7. Now, the only way I can get a negative on my third term is a positive times a negative. That's the only way. So one of these guys has to be a negative. So I look and say, well, I need a positive 7. So this guy, when I add him, has to be a negative 2. Because 9 plus a negative 2 would give me a positive 7. So I want to try those two numbers. Those are going to be the two that I try. Check our work. And I get x squared plus 7x minus 18, just like I needed up there. Perfect. Now, crazy one here, negative and a negative. So I was testing this guy, says, he just kept telling me, just trust me, this x method always works. Put a times sign, plus sign. Put a minus 24. Third term always goes on the top. Middle term is always on the bottom. And then we got to kind of think for a little bit about our two numbers here. Well, 12 times 2 would give me a 24, but I can't get a 5 out of a 12 and a 2. 6 times 4 would give me a 24, but it's still not going to give me a negative 5 out of that. So what's a way that two numbers that would multiply to 24, but I could get a 5 somehow out of those two numbers? How about 8 times 3? Okay, now again, I'm not too worried about the signs. I just know if I subtract these two guys, I get a 5, and if I multiply them, I get a 24. So now I'm worried about the signs. So now one of them has to be a negative, because that's the only way I can get a negative 24. And I need, when I add them, to be a negative 5, so that means this guy has to be a negative. So now, again, my guessing and checking has gotten down to just one, that I'm pretty confident that this is my answer. And I'm only doing FOIL once most of the time. Usually when the FOIL doesn't work, I multiply it incorrectly somewhere. And it really does work, or I didn't multiply correctly over here. So I have a plus 3x and a minus 8x, which is a plus, actually a minus 5x's, isn't it? I got more negatives than positives. Minus 5x minus 24. Look up there, that's what I needed. So there we go. Make my bracket a little bit better in there. Okay, so you got a couple to try here now. We're going to do them in class together, and we're going to get really good at this because this is like hugely important. This is how we find our zeros. So we want to be able to factor correctly and quickly. Okay, so pause your video, try these three. All right, let's see how you did. X plus 5 and an x minus 3. And again, you could have put the x minus 3 and an x plus 5. That would be still okay. X minus 4 or x minus 2. An x plus 2 and an x minus 10. Okay, so I'm hoping you're kind of getting the hang of this. All right, last thing we want to talk about is this is a quadratic. I see an n squared there. And we're going to do a lot of these. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to prove here. This is called a proof. So they said use these numbers called 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I already wrote the numbers over here for you on both of them. On today's homework, I didn't write the numbers over here. You have to write them over here. We want n to be these numbers. So if I did this right now, this trinomial, and I put 0 in, 0 squared would be 0. 0 times 11 would be another 0 plus 24 equals 24. Now if I put a 1 in, mental math, 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 11 is 11 plus 24. Now I add those guys up real quick. 24, 35, 36 is what I think I'm getting. I get 36. Put a 2 in and then finish this chart. Mental math. But show your work here. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 22 plus my 24. Let's add those guys up real quick. I get 50. 3 squared is 9. 3 times 11 plus 33 plus 24. What's that all add up to? 66. That's 16. That's plus 44 plus 24. All adds up to 84. All right, so those are our numbers there with it in as a trinomial. Now what we want to do is they said, and now have the factors. We're proving that they have, when I factor it, I have the same value. So let's go up here and let's factor this guy. N squared plus 11n plus 24. 24 goes up here. 11 goes down here. So what two numbers multiply to 24 but add up to 11? I'm hoping you're saying 8 and 3. So n plus 8 and n plus 3. Let's make sure before we do all our work. N squared plus 3n plus 8n plus 24. N squared plus 11n plus 24. Nice. So the two factors are n plus 8 and n plus 3. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a 0 in. 0 plus 8 is 8. 0 plus 3 is 3. Now brackets are touching brackets, so that means multiply, and we get 24. We're going to put a 1 in for the n. That's a 9. 1 plus 3 is 4. 9 times 4 is 36. Okay, so go ahead and finish the chart. And you'll see that 12 plus times 7 equals 84. You'll see the factored form, when we use the same numbers, we get the same numbers down here on our charts. This was a little bit easier though. I mean, they were both kind of easy right now because they were mostly mental math. But these would be coordinates that I could plot on a graph. 0, 24, 136, 250, and so forth. All right, so practice. Practice is very important that we get good and quick at this. When you do your factoring here, maybe do your x's down here. But we're going to have to show our work on checking here on all the odds. So check on all the odds. So I'm going to put a times here and a 10. I'll put a plus sign and a 7 here. I need two numbers that, well, first of all, I know it's going to be an x times an x. So maybe do your work over here. Okay. And so now two numbers. Someone's saying 5 and 2. That's sitting over here on the side that's watching me, waiting for me to get over here. Let's try it. We think it's a plus 5 and a plus 2. Check your work. X squared plus 2x plus 5x plus 10. I get x squared plus 7x plus 10. My partner here on the side is very good. So our final answer is x plus 5, x plus 2. Okay, it checked. Let's go down and see if we got another one that's maybe a little bit more of a challenge here somewhere. Maybe let's do 16 and then I'll let you go. Okay, so again, I'm going to do my x somewhere nearby. Put a times sign, that's going to be a minus 15. Plus sign on the bottom, 2. I didn't give you much room to do your work today, did I? That's okay. I'm sure you'll figure it out. If you can't fit it on this paper, staple it to a piece of paper nearby. All right, so two numbers that multiply to 15 but add up to 2. 5 and 3. Well, yeah, 5 and 3 might do it. Because that would be 15. I can get a 2 out of it if I made this one a negative. then 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. So this is going to be a plus 5, and this is going to be a minus 3. Again, check your FOIL, even though it's an even problem. It only takes a second. And it works. So my answer is x plus 5, x minus 3. Okay? It is a lot of busy work, but trust me, guessing and checking would take you a whole lot longer. Some people are pretty good at the guessing and checking, and they don't need the x's, but I think if you practice it, you'll get good at it, and then when our problems become more challenging. Notice that they're all trinomials today, and that our first term is always x squareds. Okay? So, today would be a very critical one to do your practice. Please, please, please do your practice so that you get good, quick, and accurate at it. All right, with that, have a good day. Hope to see you soon.